we see this in a definition of this tenth of the tithe. It was giving voluntarily. From the beginning, the first person to give tithe in Genesis 14, who can tell me? No, Abraham. Abel gave an offering that was in Genesis 4. That's in Genesis 4. But in 14, we have Abraham. When the 5 kings fought the 4 kings, the 5 kings won, and they took Lot as captive, and Abraham was told that your nephew Lot has been taken captive. So Abraham, with the men in his household, there were 100 and something, they chased after them, and they won the 5 kings, and they got Lot and much plunder. And it says when he was coming back, he met Melchizedek, the king of Salem, and he gave him a tenth of all that he had captured as worship, as he was just giving thanks. Because you can imagine, one man in his household with maybe 100 of his servants, he went against 5 kings, and he won and took everything over. He was just full of gratitude. So it was his act of gratitude. That time there was no law, but we see it there. Then we see it later again in Genesis 24 when Jacob, Isaac had Jacob and Esau, and Esau gave the birthright and wanted to kill his brother. You know that whole story. And Isaac went away. And when he went to the place and he slept, remember he had a dream about the staircase from heaven and angels coming down. And he said, Lord, if you take me on my journey and prosper me and bring me back, you will be my God. And this place will be your house of prayer. And I'll give you a tenth of all I have. You see, there was no law yet, but it was what he gave. He told God he would give him a tenth of everything. So we see tithe called Asa, the Hebrews or Jews starting to pick it up from there. And then, of course, as we get into Deuteronomy, in Leviticus, we see the Lord giving laws. And as he gave laws, it became also a mandatory contribution, or a levy, or what you call tax, like the way you pay as you earn. Because you earn, you pay. So that services, roads can be made and everything. And in number, we see there were 3 kinds of tithe given. There was Numbers 18:21, where you gave the tithe, the tenth came, and it was to the Levites and the priests, the people who are working in the temple. And it's because whereas everyone was given inheritance and the tribes were given inheritance, the Levites were asked to serve the Lord, and therefore they had no inheritance, so they had to earn. Their inheritance was what was brought to God, And we see that in Numbers 18:21. There's also in Deuteronomy 16:16, we see that the festival tithe, where it says every 3rd year you will bring a tenth of all you have to have in the house of the Lord, that there would be supplies, for the strangers, for whoever came, because, and then in Deuteronomy 14:28 and 29, there was the tithe for the poor, that you'd bring the tithe to give to the poor, so that there would be no one who would have lack. So we see all these kinds. And when he says, bring all the tithes in the storehouse, that there will be enough food in my temple, it means the place of God is a place of abundance. We come that if our tanks are empty, our spiritual tanks, we expect that we'll go back when we have filled them, for the week. Sometimes for just fill on Sunday, and it's taking them the whole week. Yeah. Yet sometimes the distances you have to drive through, the challenges, the workmates, the exams, the dorm masters, your friends, they can stress you so much. If you're not refilling, by the time you come, you are already past empty, or you may not even reach here. As ambassadors of Christ, you may have nothing to give because you've run empty. So, I used to teach Sunday school, and I saw some people that I taught I could pick them out. And I remember one of the songs we were singing is "Come and Go With Me to My Father's House." Do you remember it? Come and go with me to my Father's house. Come and go with me to my Father's house. It's a big, big house with lots and lots of room. A big, big table with lots and lots of food. A big, big yard where we can play football. Come with me to my Father's house. And we're saying, who was our Father? Our Father God. There's a big, big house. There's room for everybody. That's why we're saying, those who are new, you're welcome. Feel comfortable. There's big space. You have a place in our Father's house. And there's lots of food, spiritual food, physical food. There are friends to play football with or play all these kinds of games. So, as we bring that all the tithers into the house of the Lord, is that there will be enough, in our Father's house, that whoever comes will not lack, will not want. So, even as we are looking at tithe, we see in the Greek custom, it also meant tithe, 10, and it was a mandatory task to support. Rulers would put it, to make sure community service, social goods, and public roads. If you've done your history, you remember the roads, the Roman roads. I was in 3 months in Jordan, and I actually saw the roads. They are still there. You imagine how many years ago, what they would call the Roman mile. They used stone. It is their walkways. You see those colosseum, they are still standing there. You go, you sit, the marble is still there, So they would collect that tenth, and they would put it to public works for the good of all, the public birthplaces and all this, so that everyone would be able to be taken care of, the basic needs of the society. And in English, it's called tegotha, tenth. And it means relinquishing 1/10 of your personal income, either as a voluntary or a mandatory contribution or as a levy. So we see it in the Hebrew culture, Jewish culture. The Romans had it for the same purpose, and the British also has it. That's where we got taxes from, because we were colonized by the British. So, and then we have our current taxes like pay as you earn, which when you start earning it, you even don't see it. It is just deducted. The people in the back do it. So, but all of it, it goes to government to do all this. So we see that the purpose of the tithe. But what are the benefits? When we look back, and that's what we're looking at today, we're focusing. We are not saying that when we give the money, what does it do? But we are looking at the benefits or the blessings. It says the spiritual benefits. For me, I call them blessing, because when you look at it, it's actually you being blessed. And one of them, it says, he says, test me in this and you'll see if I'll not open the windows of heaven. They are opening the windows. Do you know, when you open the windows at home, what happens to the room? You just feel the air coming, but also the light. It is not like light is coming from a small crack, If the curtains were drawn, you had that light coming from the crack. Open the curtains, open the windows. So picture God saying, test me in this and see if I'll not open and pour new blessings that you will not even have enough space to contain.